Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
Good evening, everyone. The backstory is back. This is kind of a special edition. We are going to get back. I've been talking to Peggy, so we're going to get back to doing the regular things probably in early September. But tonight, I've run into, just with discussions of people, some questions came up that were kind of good points, and I didn't have good answers for them. And I thought, you know what, I've got to go to a good resource that has lived this life. So that's where my guest came in. So Peggy's not here because I said, hey, the group would like to see you. I'd like to see you. And she's choosing grandchildren over us. So yeah, I say you send the letters in, hate mail, whatever, because she's choosing her grandchildren over you and I. And I'm kind of hurt. But speaking of having to work for a living, even my current, I know, if Peggy's not here, I'm out. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. She chose grandkids over you. Just remember that. I'm here. But anyways, my next guest, I thought, there's friendship. This is good. Asked her to do anything. And she said, I think the quote was, Jeff, the only way to do your lousy show is if you wear an Iowa Hawkeyes shirt. So she and Todd Kinney, I have to buy the love tonight, which is just which is painful. But no, so I don't have enough cash. We're a low budget, so I have to instead wear an Iowa Hawkeyes here in Cincinnati. So I'll probably wake up to eggs on the house windows in the morning. Vanessa, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, even though I'm going against everything that I stand for. I even got my Bearcat stuff in the background,
Yeah, but it's what's in front that counts. Look at that Iowa Hawkeyes just gleaming there.
I feel a rash already just from wearing this thing breaking out. So hey, in all, we have a lot of fun, but there's a couple of people I've talked to that are newer into the journey of sobriety, recovery, whatever you want to say, life without alcohol. I don't like getting caught up on labels, but whatever, this journey that we're on, I talked to some people that brought up some good questions, and it was about our kids, and it was about telling our kids. And I brought you on because the people I talked to were mostly women talking about their kids. I thought that would a great topic. And just so I've got some, I know you have 4 incredible kids. Isn't the one's about to start for Notre Dame or for the Iowa Hawkeyes, but as an 8-year-old at quarterback?
Not quite yet. We'll see what happens.
So I know you're having fun, and I'm coaching football with my son right now, which is a lot of fun as well. But real quick, when my dad quit drinking, I was in my early 20s, I guess. I'm guessing right around 20, 21 years old. And I remember being embarrassed that my dad was an alcoholic, had a drinking problem, that my dad had to quit. It sickens me that I felt this way. I feel huge guilt about it, but it was almost, he's not cool. It was embarrassing. I didn't want to tell anyone. I remember I didn't drink around. I never really drank around him, but I didn't want to do. I didn't know it was completely. It was a problem. There was nothing of strength of it. The whole thing was. I looked at him. This is something different, or not something to embrace. So I wanted to throw some questions, but I know you have 4 kids. How old are your kids? What are the age ranges?
Right now they are 8, 9, 11, and 13.
Okay. And you just hit 3 years not too long ago.
Yeah, I'm over 3 years. Yeah.
So, I guess I'm going to just throw random questions and we can start going, but this all boils down to, do we tell our kids? How do we tell our kids? How are they going to react to it? All of those kinds of things. But the one that struck me the hardest was, if I tell them I don't want to fail, because now I'm telling them that and this is me talking. This is my fear. Dad's a failure. Dad has a drinking problem. So now dad has to go to rehab. Hey, guess what? I knew you were just dying to hear that your dad's going to go to rehab just so you can go running around telling your kids. But now I'm a failure because I'm having to do this. Now I'm risking, what if I fail? So I don't, do I not tell them? So I just want to start what your thoughts are. And I want to hear a little bit what you did, but I want to get into, I've got a bunch of questions for you, but I'll let you run and start with that. The fear of failure, or even a first question. Do you think your kids knew more than you gave them credit for knowing about your situation?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And so when I got sober, they were 5, 6, 8, and 9. And I wasn't sure what their little minds knew or what they thought about. But I remember this vivid moment. I was about, I would say, 4 or 5 months into sobriety. And keep in mind, my sobriety date, March 16th, 2020, right at the beginning of the pandemic. And so, life was just weird then. It was just different for everyone. And then, so we were watching a movie, and there was a scene where one of the characters was very, very intoxicated. And one of my kids, and I don't even know which one of the kids asked straight up, "Mom, have you ever been drunk?" And I just I just held my breath because I was so afraid as to what someone else might say. And it was just the 5 of us. And no one said anything. And a couple, it seemed like forever, but a few seconds later, Layla, my only daughter, says, "Well, yeah, Mom used to be drunk because she doesn't drink anymore. And she used to drink like everything." And that was her perception, right, of me not drinking anymore, because she might have thought that, I was drunk all the time. And, but I had to tell them. I remember I was 6 months in, and I didn't have a glass of wine in my hand one night. And so I asked them, I'm like, "Hey guys, what don't I have in my hand anymore?" And they didn't know what I was talking about. And I was like, "I don't have wine anymore. That's kind of cool, right?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, no big deal." But there was in one of the online sobriety meetings that I was in at the very beginning, I'm a firm believer in you hearing what you need to hear at the right time. And because my parents weren't alcoholics or drinkers or whatever. And so I remember someone sharing, I don't know who it was, but someone sharing that when their mom would get intoxicated when they were growing up, she wouldn't get mean or she wouldn't get funnier. She would just change. Mm-hmm. And I could hear my kids say that about me someday. And that just hit me square in the face. And I didn't want them to ever say that. And so hearing that, was another, motivator for me. And I think, in sharing with them, I think, subconsciously I was setting up another kind of guardrail or accountability team to have, because I never want to let my kids down. But I got sober for me. We all have to do it for ourselves. But in that process, I definitely don't want to disappoint them ever.
How do you present alcohol, a problem with alcohol, as something that has happened to you, something that you have done? Is it this journey is a great thing, or this journey is penance for what I've done? How do you, because I think if they look, there's a way, it's tough. I can see reasons on both sides of it, but obviously I would prefer to do it as this is something great and strength and a powerful thing I'm doing, but it's almost then I've got to admit to them that I failed.
Well, yeah, I think that, and let me preface all of this by saying, everyone parents differently, and every child's personality is different. And so I think, it's up to us as parents. We know our children best as to what to share and what not to share and whatever you're comfortable with. This is just what I've done. Hopefully it's the right way. I don't know if it is, but for me, telling them, because, as the years have gone on now, it's come up. There have been conversations about, especially my youngest. My youngest is 8 and he was 5 when I got sober, but he's most fascinated with not drinking. And he'll tell me things because I co-parent with their dad. So they have a household where there's no alcohol and they have a household where there is. And so what I always say is I just do my thing. I stay in my lane. I don't drink. And that, and they have a different life there. And I can't do anything about that. And that's okay. That's the way that is. But I think what's important is that while I have said that people are wired differently and alcohol affects people differently because it is a drug. It is a drug. So I've made it very clear to them that it is a drug that is very, socialized in the norm. But I've also said, there came a point where I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I didn't go into details. I didn't do that.
See, that was a question, is how deep, how honest should we be with our kids? Because there's plenty of stories I don't want my kids to know. There's plenty of stories I don't want to remember. But, so how deep should we go? And I'm getting way ahead of myself, but will our kids have a fear, oh my God, this could happen to me? And now if I sell this thing as a negative that I have a problem, or do I sell it as, hey, I have a strength? It's tough.
Yeah. Well, I think, Jeff, like we've talked before, my kids are going to make their own decisions, right? They are their own people. And what I can do is just do my best. And for me right now, that's just staying sober and making sure that, I am creating the life that I don't drink from, and creating a life that they can depend on me, that they know they can call me anytime. I can pick them up. They know that I'm not going to be sleeping in till all hours of the morning because I'm hungover. There are just different things that they have noticed now that they appreciate more, I feel. And that, so I think there is, and like I said, it's really up to the parent to decide what they share and what they don't share. I mean, I'm not going to share everything. They don't need to know that. That will do no good. That will do no good. But what they do need to know is that some people are wired differently. And for me, I can't drink alcohol. And now I'm in a place where I don't even want to. And so I'm able to talk about how I love getting up early and working out, and I love all the benefits that come from it. And that I've even had to, for my youngest, he will ask me, like when we're out with friends or whatever, oh, does so-and-so drink, or does so-and-so drink? And I've had to actually tell him, we don't judge others that choose to drink, right? That's their decision. And that I know my kids will make their decisions. And there are times, like I don't regret all my drinking days, right? There's some that I regret for sure, but it was part of my life and it's not something I can erase.
Well, this is so bad. I'm laughing because I want to say, hey, you guys exist because of my drinking days. But that's bad. I'm sorry. I digress. Well, I do want to ask you one question. You got 3 years of, don't give me that luck. You got 3 years of on this journey. If with the knowledge you have right now, if you were to tell your kids right now that you were giving up alcohol, and how would you tell them right now?
Oh gosh, I would probably just do what I did before. I mean, I do think, I didn't directly tell them until I did have some months under my belt and had, was really trying to stay on this sober path. I didn't tell them, all my day ones, mom's not drinking anymore. I didn't share any of those days or those attempts with them. But when I was at a place where I did feel the most confident that, I was going to do my best to not revert back to those behaviors, You know, I would tell them. So if today was my day one, I would probably wait 4-6 months and see if they say anything, see if they say, "Oh, mom, you don't have a glass of wine in your hand anymore," or anything, and that would be a conversation starter. But I would probably let them bring it up, in hindsight. Because but now that I don't drink, the hyper awareness of alcohol out in the world for them, they have a new lens. They ask me questions like, "Mom, at the end of Iowa football or Iowa basketball games, why do they play in heaven there is no beer? Why do they sing about beer?" Or, "Mom, why are there so many Bud Light signs everywhere? Why are there's Bud Light on all these plastic cups?" Or
And that's
just
tough
they
because that says that what mom is doing is against what the society is accepting, I guess, or is the promoting. So
yeah, well, and
it does make mom look like, well, why are you? Everyone else is doing this. You know, to a kid, I can see that.
yeah, well, and I've flipped it to, and I think that now that we're 3 years in, I think that they get the fact that it's harder to not drink in this society, and they get the fact that, you know, I've put a lot of time and effort, and they know it hasn't been easy because my youngest has straight up asked me, "Mom, is it hard not to drink?" And, you know, I've told him, yeah, there are some times when it's hard not to drink. For the most part now, it's easier, but there are different times when, yeah, it's, you know, it's hard. But at the same time, I know that a drink isn't going to give me any satisfaction. And in the long run, I'll regret it. So there's no point. And so I try and just break it down into his terms and his understanding. And I feel he gets it. And like I said, you know, if genetics are involved, you know, they're not set up for success. And so that's why it's really important to me to just live this life and do all the things. So we go tailgate, we go to the games, we go do all the things that drinking, you know, is a major part of, or, you know, the functions. And they know that mom doesn't drink, and that's okay. And I don't think that they're embarrassed because I don't really make a big deal out of it. I think if I talked about it more in public, especially with my 9-year-old, my oldest, they probably wouldn't like that. But I just, you know, I'll obviously talk to whoever about it whenever, in one-on-one conversations, but it's not like I'm walking around telling everyone about it.
Yeah, I didn't want to tell, you know, I did rehab for 6 days just because I couldn't get a day one on my own. And then I got started off in the 12 step in AA, and I went every night. I think sometimes at the beginning I was doing 3 times a day, but I didn't want to I didn't want to flood it with them. I wanted them to know what was going on, but it was tough enough. I mean, it was, I presented it. They would have seen on my face, shame and embarrassment that this had with me versus like, hey, your dad is a winner and he's gotten control of his life. And look how strong I am. I guarantee my eyes said, defeated, that this thing beat me. And now I'm having to do this. I'm sure that's what they saw. And that's not the message. They now see it completely different, and it's completely, but I think that initial, and for someone new, I get it. This is something, quitting is not something we were like, oh, I hope I get to quit. I have to quit someday. This is not something we wanted and looked forward to. This is something, it got to the point we had to make a decision to do. It was not something we were, gosh, I just hope my drinking gets out of hand so I can have to quit someday. So there's a little bit of that negative connotation to it.
Yeah, for sure. I think, and at times I even feel, I'll have slivers of jealousy for people that can just go out and have one or two. That sounds nice sometimes. But like we've talked about before, our superpower is not in the fact that we don't drink. Our superpower lies in the fact that we can play that tape forward so fast in a nanosecond where we don't even consider it as an option. And I feel like the further I'm along in sobriety, I feel like playing that tape forward and knowing all of the negative things that would happen plays faster. And
Did you worry about what their friends would say? Did you want them not to tell their friends? What is
No, keep in mind too, they were pretty young. So my oldest was only 9. And then this was also COVID. So we were basically, inside for a year. So they didn't really have to think about their friends. And then I think by the time we were back out in public, everything was kind of different, I guess. And so
do they get asked? Do you know today?
No, not at all. I mean, I do remember one baseball game. It was Father's Day, and all of the moms bought the dads their favorite beer and put it in a koozie for all the boys to hand to their dads after the game. And I remember making a comment to the mom that organized it. I was like, maybe next year the kids don't hand their dads a beer. Maybe it's something else. And she was like, oh my gosh, you're totally right. Didn't really think that one through. And it didn't happen this year. But I think they know that I had a problem with that. But it's because I told them. I was like, it's just not cool for kids to be handing their parents a drink, under any circumstances. And so yeah, but my 9-year-old, he's very hyper aware. He hates being different. He's one of those kids that likes to conform. And so if any of my kids would be embarrassed, it would definitely be him. And I've never felt that from him. And he's never said anything to me about being embarrassed about it. I think that they do understand, just because they do have another household, that alcohol is not a real cool thing.
Do you think that it is what it is and drop it, let's move on and talk about the game? Or do you think that they see mom, as in the early stages, I guess? Or has it just been accepted it's the norm and there's no difference? It's just some people like Diet Coke, some people like Diet Pepsi.
Yeah, I think that that's where they're at now. And I also, they're just used to, and they're used to just being different. They have 2 households, which around here is not really the norm, or in their circles. And so it's just another thing, I guess. But I do think, though, that what they observe when they're at their other home is they don't really share a lot with me, but when they do, it's never a positive thing. And I never bring it up. And I feel like we have mini conversations. We never have a big conversation about not drinking. It's only these little questions that might come up. But I've made it just very clear to them that it's a drug. I don't like the way it makes me feel. I don't like the way I make decisions when I drink. And that just, it's just something that I'm just not going to do. And my youngest, because I'll have non-alcoholic beers or whatever in the fridge, and he'll always joke and pull one out and be like, Mom, what's this? Or non-alcoholic wine and be like, yeah. Mom. I'm like, come on, read the label. It's non-alcoholic. But yeah, it's
one thing I have tried to do, and I don't think I purposely tried it, but now I realize, and I kind of accelerated, is showing my kids, not talking about, but showing them how much more I do and how much fun I'm having doing things that I had forgotten to do and kind of gave up on doing because I couldn't do them because when I was drinking. So they're now seeing, and I'm not focusing on I don't focus on not drinking while having all this, doing these fun things. I just focus on doing these fun things. And I think, the message I'm hoping they get out of this is, because who knows, but it's my dad had it. I got it. I don't know. There's plenty of support for it. So, roll the dice. The odds are there's chances. I hate to say it, but I hope they're seeing that, life without alcohol or life without, having to give it up is, well, my dad, it seems like it's pretty good. He's pretty happy. And it's not, so I don't want to send a message of I had to quit. I want to send a message of, hey, I finally get to live again. This stuff, hey, you can, if you want to go for it, have fun. But you know what? It was taking me down, and I don't know. I don't want it. I want to go have fun. I want to do things that I couldn't do when I was drinking.
Right. And that's exactly right. So like with the kids, when they want to go out to eat at a restaurant that doesn't serve alcohol, in the past, that would have been a no-go. Right. And with their dad, it might be a no-go still. But for me, it's, yep, whatever you want. Like, that's what we'll do. And, we pack our days with fun because I'm not hungover and I don't have that anchor where I'm just constantly thinking about where am I going to get my next drink. But it actually is all about them and doing what they want to do, like the way it should be. And I, oh shoot, I was going to say something. But yeah, just making sure that I just stay in my lane. Like I always say, just stay in my lane. That's what I want to say. They also know, they're very well aware that I've gotten sober in an online community. And so they know that I've met a lot of amazing people. And I do have a lot of friends that I've met because I took alcohol out of my life or choose to take alcohol out of my life. And so they also see that aspect to it, which I think, brings them joy when I'm super happy. And I mean, I think when I have tears now, they're tears of joy or happiness. And my oldest, like a couple weeks ago, he like made some funny comment, like, yeah, when mom cries, it's just because she's happy. And so I just thought that was like, they're getting it. They're getting it. And they watch us. They're constantly watching us and soaking it all in. And that is one thing. There was one thing my 9-year-old said about being at his dad's house. There was, when he hears the ice machine, he knows his dad's making a Captain and Diet. And I know exactly what he's talking about. And he's known that noise for years and knows when he goes to bed, that's what his dad does. And I had no idea that they would ever pick up on something like that.
So how do you, it's bad for mom, but it's okay for dad. How do you handle that? Does it come up?
That's never really come up. And it's never really come up. And I just always say that's his decision. Right? Like that's what he chooses to do. I choose not to. But I know, like,
do they ask you why you had to quit?
Yeah, they have asked me why. And I just said that I was starting to drink way too much and it just wasn't getting me where I wanted to go. And that when I didn't have them, when they were with their dad, I was definitely drinking more and I didn't like that. And I had to change it. And so I joined an online community and
I think, the hiding something is the forbidden fruit. I want to know more. If you're going to hide it, I want to know what's in there, what's in the box. But if you say, oh, it's just this, it's whatever. Oh, okay, drop it. Let's move on. And I think for me, that's a better approach. But my gut instinct was, because of shame, was because of, okay, I've been trying to control and I'm finally defeated. I'm beat. And for me, it was tough. Looking back, I mean, this show's about total honesty. I don't know that I would have told them. I don't know if I would have told them I was going to rehab. I might have gone on vacation for 6 days and just come back. I wasn't never going to hide the drinking or the fact that I was stopping, because I'm proud of that. But I still at rehab, and I tell people go all the time. It's a great way to get. It's a great way. I needed it. It worked for me, but it still was a Jeff's not strong enough. You know, I need help, and that was tough for me. I'm not going to lie.
Well, and I think that that's, I always say, when I got sober, I wanted to see a timeline of events. I wanted to know when I could go to a bar and not want to have a drink. I wanted to know when I could go to a party and not want to have a drink. I wanted to know all of these things that I used to do all the time when drinking was involved, right? But I also think that transitioning from that shame and guilt and that yuck and muck to having it be something that we're proud of, having it be something that we do choose to do on a daily basis because that's what we do. That's a process too. And that's on a different timeline for every individual too. That's different for every individual. So like at the beginning, I wasn't proud of the fact that I had to get sober. Yeah. Like that didn't happen for a while, right? And so but for other people, it might happen earlier or later. But I think being proud of standing my ground and knowing I'm doing the right thing by removing that one thing out of my life, like that is something I'm proud of and I'll never regret. And so, but it took me a while to be proud of it.
Well, that's the one thing, the one message we've talked a lot about, there's a lot of difficult times here, but the end point, and tell me if this doesn't apply to you. I'm thrilled that I quit drinking. My kids are we're at a point now where we joke about it, just like, hey mom, wine, or the alcohol-free wine in the fridge. It's now a great world to be in. We joke about it, the nervousness, all the shame, the worry about all that stuff is gone. And the day that I had, and I'll never tell which one of my 4 kids, but one of their friends said, I wish my dad would quit. I hate it when he drinks. I don't remember the exact words, but it was something, I wish my dad would quit drinking. Because I hate it, and I realized that their kid that what I was a fear that your dad's a loser, he's a drunk. No, that I realized that was the one I realized. No, they're going, God, I wish my dad was like yours, and they saw me as a strength.
That's an excellent point. I forgot about that. There have been a few times where they have been in a car with. One of the situations was one of their friends' grandma, and me not drinking came up. I wasn't there. And the child did say to my son, Parker, I really, really wish my mom didn't drink. And I think, and now that I haven't thought about this, Jeff, but I think because Parker's the one who doesn't like to be different. And I think and that was early on in my sobriety. And I think that him hearing that, help make him feel like, oh, maybe my mom is doing the right thing. And this, maybe others just, don't do it as much, but maybe it's okay.
Does he look at you still as you're different, or does he look at you as you're different because you're above the rest, or the opposite?
I don't know. I'd like to see above, but I don't know.
I guess my point. So I asked you some, the fear of failure to the kids. How detailed do we go? The bottom line, those were all legit concerns, and they are legit concerns, and they were. But now, where I am today, no, they're just like none of that mattered or had any lingering negatives. It's completely. Everyone sees it. I know that my kids are much happier with a dad that's not putting a case of beer, I guarantee they're thrilled that I did this. Our relationships are stronger. the fact that I can have talks with my daughters at 10:30 at night if they want to, and actually be able to listen and hear and remember and respond, and not say, all I can offer you is breath that smells like a brewery,
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
well, thanks so much. Any other advice you would have for someone that is at this point, and what do we tell the kids? What do you think? How would you sum it up?
Yeah, no, I think, like I've always said, everyone's journey is their own journey, and everyone's so different, and every child is so different, every age is so different, what they've seen, what they haven't seen. If they had been older, I probably would have talked about it with them a little sooner, just because they would have
Yeah.
probably been more aware of it. But and so it really depends on that. But at this point, I do hope that they see me as a source of strength, and that, it's something that not a lot of people do, especially in Iowa. But that, and as they get older and they're in situations where people will be drinking, they don't ever have to put themselves in a situation where they have to get in a car with someone who's been drinking. Like, I will always be here for them. And I think that stability and that foundation and that safety isn't something I could have provided. And I can now.
Well,
And
you also are giving them a reason to say it's okay to say no if they choose to say no.
oh, for sure.
It's not,
Absolutely.
well, I'm choosing to say no when my mom doesn't say no, or all the different things. You're giving them a reason to make their own decisions and stand by them and see it as a thing of strength. So, all right, well, hang on, and I want to thank Vanessa for being here, because obviously she cares more about us than her grandkids, right? Unlike Peggy. Not yet. few more years before that.
Oh gosh.
Well, you got the NFL years with his quarterback, so. Well, thanks so much, and I appreciate it. And we are, 2 weeks, Peggy's Sober in the City event, which I will be attending in Portland, Maine. Hopefully get some lobster out of the deal. I'm trying to try that. But anyways, we'll be back here. So we're lining things up. So probably mid-September or something we'll get on a regular basis. And thanks so much, Sheila. It's always good to see Sheila on here, and Bruce and Lulu and the whole gang. So thanks, everyone. We will talk soon. Have a good one. Hang on there, Vanessa. I've got some party gifts for you. See ya.